Welcome. In this video, we'll be defining some of the Sanskrit terms that you'll hear used in this course. I want to preface this by saying I am not a Sanskrit scholar. I am a lay practitioner and a householder doing the best that I can. These are very multi-layered words from a very complex and ancient language. Sanskrit's one of those things. The more you learn, the more you know there is to learn. But we have to start somewhere. So we're going to start here. I also want to say, I know that my pronunciation of these words is hopelessly marred by a Northern California accent, which is why I encourage you, whenever possible, to seek out South Asian and Desi teachers who are much more likely to give you an accurate pronunciation than I. I am working on it. Pronunciation does matter, so I will continue to evolve and grow in this way. That said, we're going to try anyhow because I do think it's important. Sanskrit is the ancient language of India, and it is the language that the original yoga text was written in. So using these terms, I think, is very important, as it's a part of what separates yoga from merely being exercise. So the more we come to understand these terms, the more I think we really understand what we're doing when we're practicing yoga. So let's start with that word. Let's start with yoga. Yoga is Sanskrit meaning to unite or union. So let's begin with our working definition of yoga as the union of body and mind. And the means that we will use to create this union or experience this union is the means of the breath. There are many more meanings to yoga, but that's where we're going to start. Union of mind and body through the means of the breath. Now, the type of yoga that we'll be practicing together is Hatha yoga. And Hatha yoga just refers to kind of using the field of the body to awaken consciousness. And generally, at least in the United States, I'll speak to, you will see Hatha yoga, there's a lot of emphasis on the poses. That's what you'll see in most yoga classrooms across this country. And certainly poses are a part of it. What we'll be learning in this course is it's also breathwork practices, relaxation techniques, meditation, concentration, chanting. So there's myriad techniques that we use in Hatha yoga, but all of them do to a certain degree involve the mind, body, and the breath. The methodology that we'll be using, which refers to also the lineage that I'm teaching within, is Vinaya yoga. So Vinaya yoga is the distillation of yoga teachings as put together by my teacher's teacher, Mr. T.K.V. Desikachar. And if you look him up, and I hope you do, just make sure you're not looking at his son when you Google. Make sure it's Mr. or Sir T.K.V. Desikachar. His son just had a different sort of life. But Mr. Desikachar's life was dedicated to compiling this lineage, which goes back a long ways in his family. His goal was to distill it in such a way that it could be the most accessible to the greatest amount of people. The prefix Vina, V-I-N-I, refers to tailor or to adapt something. So Vinaya yoga is simply the process of tailoring or adapting the yoga techniques to suit our systems and our bodies rather than the other way around. So that is what we will be practicing together in this course. I also want to define a few of the tools that we'll be using in this practice. And the first is the most important, which is prana, P-R-A-N-A. And prana simply refers to this life force energy or vitality that runs through our systems. And one of the differences between asana, A-S-A-N-A, yoga postures, and regular exercises is that they don't just exercise us physiologically, but also energetically, in that they address and awaken and distribute this life force energy, or prana, through the body. So just like blood goes through vessels, this prana is thought to have its own system of channels which distribute this life force through the body. And these channels are called nadi, N-A-D-I. There's a lot of them, but there's only a few that we generally need to remember. And the primary one is the central channel, which runs from the crown of the head to the pelvic floor, more or less roughly concurrent with the spine. We will experience in the poses the benefit of concentrating our life force, our prana, through this area, through this channel or nadi. The last term I want to define for you is when this life force enters the body, it's thought to take on the aspects of different winds or vayu, V-A-Y-U. And the wind that we will be focusing on the most in this course is apana vayu, A-P-A-N-A. So apana vayu refers to the downward quality of the exhale. Physiologically, it's related to elimination, and emotionally connected to that feeling of releasing or letting go. So that is apana vayu, the downward quality of the out breath. So these are some of the tools we will use in our explorations together. Feel free to go back through that if you're a note taker. Write those down if that helps you to remember, but you also don't have to remember. That's the magic of Sanskrit, is you can also not know the meanings and let the magic just wash over you. And that still has a really beneficial effect. So enjoy the practice. I will see you on day 1.